time has come to build the last city on Earth.
Strategy games are about using your knowledge and skills to overcome challenges. But what if instead of those challenges being other players or giant armies, your biggest threat was nature? What if the challenge was from within your own city? So instead of micromanaging armies, you're managing your people and supplies to survive. Frostpunk's PC release in 2018 showed that base building and strategy games didn't just need to be about building armies and other players. The challenges can come from the hard choices people had to make. The game's dystopian setting based on a unique steampunk Victorian England showed that city survival formula can work. Since its release, it sold over 1 million copies. So imagine when the game not only got a console release date announced, but also had the project lead stating they actually prefer to play with the controller right now, and that the game's internal usability testing for ease was running about 9 out of 10 on controller. So you can imagine, with the console release in 2019 and the game joining Game Pass, there was a lot to live up to. Now, with years of support since launch and the announcement of Frostpunk 2, is Frostpunk an experience that is worth it on console? Is it a game that lived up to the announcements that console strategy fans need to play? So let's find out. Your goal first and foremost is to survive by ruling the last city on Earth. You start off the game with a cutscene that explains you're in late 19th century and that global cooling is occurring. To survive the freezing temperatures, groups of survivors have travelled to create their last city on Earth around a generator. So this generator uses coal to help heat up certain sections of your base. Just like in traditional strategy games, instead of enemy troops, the weather is your biggest and constant threat. As days go on, the temperature will become lower and fluctuate. If proper measures like upgrading your generator or adding in heating to buildings is not done quickly enough, you'll start to have people become sick or die. And this is important, because not only do you need to worry about the weather, you need to ensure you manage your resources and time. You'll need coal to power your generators, wood and steel to build new buildings, food to feed your people, enough medical staff to help the sick, and most importantly, the people to work on all your resource gathering sites and buildings. So in the game, you don't get endless supply of survivors, so it's important that you ensure your people survive. You'll be constantly micromanaging your different workplaces to ensure you have enough people working at places you need the most. You'll also be researching new technology and sending out scout party to complete random story and supply events. It's easy to get sucked into this game as you're constantly trying to keep your city alive. Even beyond gameplay, the setting and world design is amazing in Frostpunk. The little details of seeing your villagers clearing through snow to get areas you haven't heated, or just walking around the city living their lives draws you in. This is especially true when you see the results of some of the choices you've made. You can see the game's attention to detail in even the little visuals, like when a building is built outside the radius of a heater, the roof will be covered in snow. Or, it never gets old to see the city's lights at night and the steam coming out of generators and houses. The game does such an amazing job on the aesthetic and setting. Buildings have nailed the feeling of late 19th century infused with dystopian survival. They look like they were put together with whatever resources the survivors could find, with different looking wood panels and tarps used. This survival feel is important to remember because Frostpunk is a unique mix of survival game first and city builder second. You're always struggling to survive and constantly juggling around your resources and survivors. But what really makes Frostpunk stand out is the choices that you'll need to make to survive. As you rule, you'll have a hope and discontent meter in the middle bottom of your screen. If the discontent gets too high, the people will overthrow you, and if you lose all hope, they will leave. As you make different laws, you'll have a positive or negative impact on discontent and hope. So for example, most buildings have a set work hours. So you may pass a law that allows you to make certain buildings work emergency shifts, which means they'll work for 24 hours straight. When you make a certain building do a 24-hour shift, it will increase the discontent meter. However, you may be stuck in a situation where your city has run out of coal, and you know that a little discontent is worth the risk to ensure that the heater works overnight and the survivors do not become sick. As the game progresses, your choices will become harder and harder, and this is a reflection of the game's grim reality. But the game's bleak main story scenario aside, after you survive past certain days, you'll unlock different scenarios to play, and even the endless mode. And this is where a lot of your time will be spent after finishing the main story. Endless mode has 3 different types. These are endurance, where you have scarce resources and frequent blizzards. There's serenity mode, which is based on having plenty of resources to allow you focus on building a big city, and there's the DLC of builder mode based around building a generator. In endless mode, you can select different maps, you can customize people's needs, economy, society attitudes, and random hazards. All in, you can finish the main scenario in about 10 hours. However, a lot of the time played will come through trial and error, where you will learn through your mistakes. The game also has a season pass and expansion that expand the story and modes. Okay, so console. One of the key points highlighted by the game's lead developer was that Frostpunk Console Edition needed to make sure that every important and frequently used command was accessible within 2 clicks. They stated in development that they'd tried using a virtual mouse, but discovered it was not an enjoyable experience. So while playing, you can really notice how big of an impact this has on the game. Firstly, let's talk about the UI. The game is clear, simple, and provides critical information at a glance. The game does an excellent job of showing information on the outskirts of your screen edge. So anytime you can see your resources, your population at the top, the temperatures are shown clearly in the top middle, you can see your scout parties on the right side, and you can see your discontent, your hope, your research percentage, and laws at the bottom. The game also implements a radial building placement around your generator, so this makes the base layout and design a lot more manageable and efficient on the controller. Speaking of which, the radial design is also implemented on the controller button layout. So for example, you press left trigger to bring up your command hub, so this has the most common commands that you'll need. So this includes research, laws, buildings, economy, and city information. So in 2 controller presses, you can quickly bring up your city info tab and quickly note in more detail what your citizens need and why. Some other nice examples of controller implementation is pressing the select to see a heat map of your base and using the D-pad to pause and fast forward through time. So when it comes to the console edition, they've done an exceptional job on controller support. It really does feel like the original experience without lots of sacrifices. For some players, they may prefer the mouse as it's easier to click and see individual citizens. However, I never felt like that was a feature that I was required to use. But amazing setting and controller support aside, there's one area that Frostpunk absolutely struggled with, and that is a tutorial. It provides a tutorial through book pages you can read at any time, and the missions on how to progress. However, the tutorial lacks depth and struggles to provide you the skills to understand what you need to do. And worst of all, at times it felt like it actually gave me the wrong build order. This is a game designed on learning from your mistakes and restarting playthroughs, but when playing with a controller, you're already limiting your ability to just click on objects. It can make learning controls and basic gameplay more challenging. In saying that, I would recommend going into the game and learning from your mistakes. After you get to a certain point and feel lost, jump online and watch a beginner guide. Overall, Frostpunk shows strategy games do not need to have an enemy faction to create challenge. That nature and the choices you make to survive can create hours of gameplay. It's a unique setting, theme, and story that make an experience that any strategy fan should experience. On console, you can really see the developer put a lot of effort into ensuring the game was not only playable on controller, but it's an alternative that feels natural and fluid to the game. Frostpunk shows that resource management and city building games can have unique perspectives that are worth playing. So for anyone looking for a survival city building game that forces you to make hard choices, then this might be the game for you. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more strategy game reviews for the console, please click on the playlist. Thank you for listening and please subscribe.